All right, welcome into Sports Bet Betting Insight today. Weekend preview, Pauly and Teddy. Big game breakdown. Game 7 is here, and we get to the Rangers and the Cardinals. We continue our team previews. Today it's the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons, and of course, play of the day. So here we go. Game 7 coming up on Sunday, but we recap what happened with Game 6. No doubt about it, the Warriors were a bad bet. 31-11 at the end of the first quarter, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, it was ugly from the get-go. It was ugly when Kerr called a timeout with, 3 minutes into the game? And it was already, you could see, he could sense it. As a bettor, I sensed it, especially a bettor with a big Golden State bet in his pocket last night. It was trouble right from the get-go from the Warriors. And it wasn't, it was 31-11 after one, but, there have been blowouts in this series that felt over after one. This wasn't one of those games. Golden State made a run in the second quarter. They made a run in the fourth quarter. They just didn't do enough. And so many things wrong for the Warriors last night, really.
No, Curry, let's start with this. Curry, Thompson, and Iggy, 25 made field goals. Rest of the team, 7 made field goals. Iguodala was banged up now with the back. Harrison Barnes can't make a shot. And then it looked like things were slowing down and they were making their run. And then LeBron bailed out the Cavs when their offense became stagnant.
Well, that's the thing. The Cavs really did. They played awful offense for extended stretches of the second half, allowing Golden State to get back into it. And if the Warriors would have hit a bunch of shots, they might have come back to win that game. But even with that awful offense, standing around, jacking up contested jumpers late in the shot clock, well, when you got the best player in the world, you could do that and still win. LeBron scored or assisted on 27 consecutive Cavs points in the second half. He was absolutely, Pauly, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was the best player on the floor for either squad.
Last two games, 41-8-11, 41-16-7. They got it wrong last year. But even if they lose Sunday, he's the MVP of the series.
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. But, look at Golden State. What'd they do? They missed Bogut's rebounding. They really did. And we've been making fun of Bogut. But the one thing he provides is rebounding and defense, or the two things he provides. The Cavs were plus 10 on the boards, and the Cavs were 60% from two-point range. You mentioned Harrison Barnes. I don't know who you want to call the GOAT for Golden State, whether it's Barnes or Draymond Green, but Barnes, 2 of 22 from the floor in the last two games. He's been on the floor for 54 minutes of court time. He scored 5 points. He has 7 rebounds and 1 assist. This is a guy who's playing for a big, fat free agent contract. Oops.
Yep, and Kevin Love stunk again. This is fascinating that they're better off with these guys on the bench. Barnes is getting wide open looks. This is actually a good job by Lou in Cleveland. They're saying, all right, go ahead, shoot it. You can't make it. And he's 2 of 22. He's getting wide open threes, and it's Brick City.
And that's the truth of it. But so we talked about Golden State as being a bad bet. Tough beat if you had the under last night, for sure. We were sitting at $1.87 with 4 minutes left. The in-game total is in the 199.5, 200 range. And then all of a sudden, it's a flurry of threes, sends it over. And also makes the Golden State Warriors' offensive performance look better than it was, Pauly.
Yep, and one more thing, too. What happened in garbage time, which was 65 points in the fourth quarter, Spates from 3, Clark hit a 3, Dellavedova got fouled. They were fouling on purpose to get guys out of the game. That sucker exploded down the stretch. Usually most of these games have died at the end. One more thing, though, too. Oh, big surprise. All hell breaks loose in a game officiated by Scott Foster. They called 50 fouls. The MVP can't get a call. He gets tossed. He throws his mouthpiece. His wife tweets the league is rigged. Why was this guy on the game? NBA made their bet. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, and all of that being said, for a Game 7 series, Pauly, and this is going to Game 7, obviously, this is probably maybe the least competitive Game 7 series I can recall. In fact, look at the tweet from ESPN Stats. The first NBA Finals in which each of the first 6 games were decided by double figures. And this is the series we get a Game 7. There hasn't been the only competitive fourth quarter in this, the competitive last 5 minutes of a fourth quarter, and even that was a double-digit win, was a Game 4 when Golden State rallied late to beat the Cavs. That's been the only game you're must-watch TV in the fourth quarter of this entire series.
Yep. How good Sunday. Game 7, Father's Day, U.S. Open, Jon Snow against Ramsey Bolton. You got part 5 of the OJ 30 for 30, which airs Saturday night. This is going to be a great 24 hours of sports going Saturday night into Sunday night. Oh, man. And just TV in general.
That's why we do the weekend preview edition. This isn't a Friday edition. We'll talk about Game 7 coming up in Big Game Breakdown.
We continue with bad bets. Oakland, the markets went against Colby Lewis again. He had a perfect game with 2 outs in the 8th.
They've been betting against Texas every day. Literally. The markets are fading the Rangers on a daily basis. Meanwhile, Colby Lewis, they've been heavy money coming against him, second time in a row. And the advanced metric numbers say Colby Lewis is due for a regression. Well, guess what? He allowed only 5 hits over those 2 games. The Rangers have won his last 7 starts. And the Texas Rangers, now twice as profitable as the number 2 team in Major League Baseball in profitability this year. Texas is up 24 units. The number 2 team right now is San Francisco. They're up 12.
Yep. Bad beat? Kind of. We told you yesterday on Sportsbet when we were giving out our play of the day about the dichotomy between the Royals bullpen, number 1 in ERA, and the Tigers bullpen, 24th in ERA, and completely exhausted off a brutal series in Chicago. So KC gives the ball to the bullpen with the lead. All hell breaks loose.
Tigers score 7 off the Royals pen. 3 different relievers get rocked. Tigers pen doesn't give up a run. And go figure. There is some randomness in baseball. Unfortunately, that randomness worked against us last night with the play of the day. See if we can get back on track tonight. But it's moment of silence time. We had a moment of silence for Kevin Love's agent last week, man. That was prescient, brother. What do we got tonight?
We got Jose Reyes' Colorado career, and I don't think the Mets want him back either. I don't know who's going to pick this guy up. We've come a long way with domestic violence. Ask Ray Rice. And as I brought up that OJ 30 for 30 earlier, his wife called the cops on him 8 different times, and they never arrested him. And in some instances, the LAPD would ask him for his autograph when they went over to the house. Now you touch your wife or girlfriend, your career could be finished, Teddy.
Yeah, well, Jose Reyes looks like his career is finished. Let's put it this way. Rockies aren't a rich franchise. They owe him $38 million, and they would rather eat it than play him. Other teams can sign him for the, $500,000 is the MLB minimum. Actually, it's $507,000 and $500. That's the MLB minimum. So someone else could sign him. Of course, that's prorated. But the question is, will anyone want to? I'm not convinced anyone will. 20 shortstops, Pauly, played enough to qualify for the wins over replacement ratings, the WAR ratings in 2015. Reyes, of those 20 shortstops, was number 19 in defense. And think no further than what happened last year once he left that Blue Jays locker room. That immediately was when Toronto went on their surge. I'm not convinced we're going to see Jose Reyes in a Major League Baseball uniform again. Moment of silence.
All right, let's get into it up next. Game 7. We'll run everything down, the history. A road team hasn't won since 1978, and we'll break the game down, and we'll get to the Atlanta Falcons on SportsBit. Betting and insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Always on the go? Bet365 has one of the top mobile platforms in today's market. Sign up today, and don't let your busy life keep you out of the game.
All right, back on SportsBet. Here we go. Game 7, Sunday night. Cavs and the Warriors. Warriors at home, 5-207 the total. The road team in the NBA Finals has not won a Game 7 since 1978. The Bullets over the Sonics. All time, the home team is 15-3. 2013, the Heat beat the Spurs. 2010, the Lakers beat the Celtics 83-79. 2005, the Spurs beat the Pistons in a doozy 81-74. 1994, the John Starks game. He was 2 of 18. Rockets beat the Knicks 90-84. 88, the Lakers beat the Pistons. In 1984, the Celtics over the Lakers. So you got it. And I think what it was 101-24 now all time. Game 7, the home team. So history on the Warriors side, Teddy, no doubt.
No question about that. That being said, let's talk about some of these. And of course, you mentioned that in the finals, no road teams won a Game 7 since it was the Bullets over the Sonics. Let's see, the Sonics don't exist anymore. The Bullets are now the Wizards and have been for about 2 decades. So obviously, it's been a while. But let's go through those Game 7s you're talking about. 2013, the Heat beat the Spurs. You remember that game? That was after San Antonio missed those free throws and Ray Allen hit the 3 in Game 6 to kind of break San Antonio's heart. I thought Miami was going to be an easy bet in that Game 7. They weren't. They got the money in the end, but they weren't a right side. No way. The Lakers over the Celtics in 2010, guess what? The Celtics got the money in that game. LA won the title. I remember I had a ticket on Boston in my a ticket on the Celtics in my pocket.
Hey, Teddy.
Yeah.
Kobe was horrendous in that game.
He sure was.
6-24, I think.
Yeah, that was an ugly basketball game.
Yes.
It really was. So was the Spurs Pistons 2005. And again, that was a game where, yeah, the favorite won and covered. Did they deserve it? No. 94. You remember the Rockets, Knicks. As ugly as it gets. Now, note, all of these games we're talking about, they were tight and they were low scoring. That's the history of recent Game 7.
Yep. Also, the team with the current MVP has won 18 straight Game 7s. Now, how about this? Look at this graphic. Here's Golden State. Regular season, 73-9. Golden State in the playoffs, 15-8. They lose Sunday. They have as many losses in the playoffs as the entire regular season. Oh, my God.
And you talk about home losses. Haven't they lost as many at home in the playoffs as they did all regular season already? You know? And of course, you know, when we talk about these teams in their respective Game 7 experiences, the Warriors, they played one Game 7 over the last 2 years. That came against Oklahoma City this year. They won by 8, a 7-point chalk. And again, I cashed a ticket on Golden State in that game. They were not a right side. That was a very, very lucky cover. And I don't mind lucky covers. I'll take them whenever I can get them. But in terms of a confidence factor, Warriors have been there this year. But in terms of did they bring their A game? Did they play the best they could? Not necessarily. Meanwhile, you look at LeBron and his track record in Game 7s. I mean, what do you got? You have Game 7 against the Spurs in 2013, win and cover. Game 7 against the Pacers, 2013, win and cover. Game 7 against the Celtics in 2012, win and cover. You can go back to 2008 when they lost to the Celtics, lose and cover. LeBron's been pretty good with a championship on the line, or a Game 7 on the line, with a survivor go home on the line. LeBron's been a bet-on guy. Golden State, not so much.
Yeah. Has there been a bigger legacy game in NBA history? I mean, if the Cavs win, they're the first team to come back down 3-1. He delivers the championship to Cleveland and ends that drought. It's third. It would be his third ring. And oh, by the way, they beat the team that had 73 wins. And he'll win the MVP, and he just had 41 back-to-back games. I mean, this would be right up there with Michael Jordan if the Cavs win this on the road.
And throughout the course of his career, I've been saying you just can't compare anyone to Jordan. You can't compare LeBron to Jordan. You can't compare Kobe to Jordan. Jordan is here and everyone else is there. If LeBron pulls this off and the Cavs win this series, maybe you can start to compare the two. It's less, obviously we record this less than 24 hours after Game 6 was played, but I'm telling you, man, this feels Red Sox 2004-esque. And if you look at the markets, the whole series, Golden State has been, Golden State's the better team. Golden State's the better team. Golden State's going to be 7, 7.5, 8 at home. Now Golden State's 5. The market's reacting to what they've seen out of the Cavs over the last couple of ball games.
What'd you think about Lou having him out there in another blowout, or at least when the game was decided late?
You know, I mean, the advantage that the Cavs have had in terms of minutes in this series is that they've been playing all their starters major minutes. But there's 3 games. There's 3 days between games. There's only been one set of a 2-game break, or a 1-day break, or one game, day off game in this entire finals. Everything else, they've had 2 full days off between games. So I did think LeBron was on the court too long. That being said, it was competitive. Golden State felt like they could go on a run. I don't necessarily blame Lou for keeping him on the court as long as he did, given that they had an extra 2 days. You know, they've got 2 days between now and Sunday for that Game 7.
All right, okay. Who can Kerr count on other than the Splash Brothers? I know the role players and the bench guys always play better at home, but Green is rattled. The trash talk backfired after what he said. He could be the GOAT if they lose this series. I know Barnes has been horrible, but it's 3-1 when he gets suspended. Iggy's got the bad back. Barnes can't make a shot. Livingston can't get anything going. Bogut's out. Who does he turn to?
You got to turn to your stars. You know, they got 3 of them. In theory, those are the guys that you have to rely on. That being said, again, Harrison Barnes, we talked about him earlier at 2 or 22. Harrison Barnes got to hit a shot, or Golden State's not going to win this title. Sean Livingston's got to play like he did the first couple of games of this series, or Golden State's not going to win a title. When you think about it, Golden State minutes with the lead in the second half of the last 2 games, 0. 3 times in the last 4 games, they have not had a lead for a single second of the second half. And in fact, talk about, we talked about this Game 7. Golden State won the first 2 games by a combined 48 points. Since that time, there have been 4 games. The Cavs have outscored the Warriors by exactly 48 points. The net point differential this series is 0. It's going to Game 7, and we haven't seen anything competitive. It's just a number, one route after the next. It's kind of bizarre in that sense, Paul.
So Kerr and Curry are both going to get fined. Curry went bananas and threw his mouthpiece. Kerr ripped the officials. Will the MVP, the 2-time MVP, actually get a call in Game 7? Do you expect that to work with how they ripped the officials? Do you expect Golden State maybe to get the benefit of the whistle and maybe Curry on Sunday?
I'm expecting a competitive game. That's what I'm going to say. Would I think that Steph Curry would get calls in a way that he hasn't in the last couple of games? Probably. But, the NBA got what they wanted. Everyone's going to be watching. League's going to make a fortune off this game. And when it comes to Game 7, you would expect both of the true super duper stars to get more than their fair share of calls. That being said, make no mistake about it, LeBron's been better than Curry in this series so far. And if you're calling MVP, I agree with you. I think LeBron's MVP, even if the Cavs lose Game 7. I don't look at Golden State and say anyone deserves to win the award. Nobody does.
Going to be a ratings bonanza with the game late on Father's Day. Remember, this is the weekend preview, so liveoddsportsbookreview.com. Last game, Rangers-Cardinals, 110, 8 the total. Hamels against Waka. Hamels is doing a lot of things right this season, but what has gone wrong has gone very wrong, Teddy. The long ball's coming back to bite him.
Oh, my gosh. Look at the numbers. He's already allowed 15 home runs in 83 innings. All right, over the last 3 seasons combined, it was 36 home runs allowed in 417 innings. So you can see that ratio has really changed. In his last 7 starts, he's given up 11 dingers, at least 1 in every game. Look at the home run to fly ball rate. In his career, 11%. This year, double that. Where does that 22.7% of fly balls that are going out of the park put him? Dead last among the 99 qualifying pitchers in Major League Baseball. Now, it's worth noting, Hamels also seen his walk rate go much higher this year. His walks per 9 is at 3.5. That's a career high. He's 2.4 walks per 9 innings in his career. You wonder if those home runs and all these dingers that are going out is making him hesitant to throw strikes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The big question in St. Louis, what's going on with Waka? And no one's been able to figure it out.
I just like Waka because it makes me think of the Pac-Man guy. Waka, 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 waka. Every time. And this is one of these age-old questions for baseball. How much is bad pitching and how much is a slump getting into a pitcher's head? Waka last year, 17-7, 3.38. This year, he's 2-6, 4.91. But you look at the fielding and independent pitching, the FIP numbers, he's better this year than he was last year. He's been getting killed by some of the randomness in baseball. The BABIP, batting average on balls in play, 55 points higher this year than last year. The left on base percentage, he just hasn't been able to strand runners the way they did a season ago. And boy, that's 60.2%. That's really low strand rate. But pitchers don't necessarily feel that. Instead, they just see their bottom line being awful. And that's definitely a concern for Waka, although he is coming off a decent outing in San Francisco last time out, where he did throw 7 innings of 2-run, 3-hit baseball.
Yeah. Should I do the Matheny quote, or you want to move on?
No, it's worth running. Matheny's quote, he's still a young player. I think we forget about all that. He jumps on the scene in the postseason. He's had all that success. And we throw him right into a category like he's got all this figured out or seen enough bumps to know how to sort through it. But he is a young player. Sometimes it takes a little while to get out of it. So Matheny's saying, hey, he'll be fine, but right now, maybe not so much.
LiveOddsSportsBookReview.com. Up next, we start the NFC South today, the Atlanta Falcons, and we try to get back on track with the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today.
Always on the go? Bet365 has one of the top mobile platforms in today's market. Sign up today and don't let your busy life keep you out of the game.
All right, here we go. Atlanta Falcons. Over-under, win total 7.5. Split line. Many books have an over-under of 7. Last year, 8-8 straight up. 6-10 ATS. 13-2-1 to the under. How about that? 6 of the 8 wins last year came by 1 score. And that doesn't include the Cowboys game when they rallied from 2 touchdowns down against Brandon Whedon to win by 11. 5 of the 8 losses came by 1 score too. So a lot of close games, Teddy.
Yeah, a ton of close games and a ton of low-scoring close games for Atlanta. And it's worth noting, you talk about that split line where there's some books have a 7, some books have a 7.5. I call lines like that 7.25. That's the true line, even though you'll rarely see it expressed that way. But mathematically, that's kind of where Atlanta is right now. If you like them over, you can find them over 7. If you like them under, you can find them under 7.5. And modest juice with both of those. You look at the mainstream numbers, they had 30 giveaways last year. That was bottom 5. They were finished -7 in turnovers. That was number 27 in the NFL. The mainstream stats weren't that bad when it comes to yardage. They were number 7 in offense, number 16 in defense. Yards per play, dead even. 0.0 yards per play differential between what they gained and what they allowed. That was tied, obviously, right by the middle of the pack. But all of that for the Falcons resulted in Mike Smith, bye-bye. After that hot start, of course, this team started, 5-0, 6-1, and then fell apart down the stretch, losing 7 of their last 9. So Smith goes bye-bye. The new head coach, Dan Quinn, he's kind of been the coach in waiting in Seattle. We've been expecting him to get a head coach job the last few years, the former defensive coordinator. He's now landed in Atlanta, brings in Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator, Raheem Morris as his defensive coordinator, although Quinn will be calling the defensive plays, supposedly, for Atlanta this season.
Personnel moves, big upgrade on the O-line with Mack signed on in free agency. He solves the problem at center. He fit with Shanahan's system in Cleveland. Great fit for what they need. They grabbed Sanu at wide receiver. Nice addition. If Roddy White didn't do anything last year, but they still have big cap problems, Teddy.
Yeah, they really do. And Atlanta was a team that was kind of up against it. Remember, they sort of went all in a couple of years ago when they made it to the NFC Championship game saying, we got to win a title now. It fell apart 2 years in a row. And boom, the salary cap problems do linger for this team. And of course, the biggest issue, there were so many issues last year with their collapse down the stretch. But one of the big issues was the pass rush. They're really hoping that Vic Beasley can stay healthy. He had a very promising but injury-riddled rookie season. And, of course, a team that went 13-2-1 to the under. Where'd their top 2 picks go? Of course, on defense. Keanu Neal, a safety out of Florida. Deion Jones, a linebacker out of LSU. Both expected to shore up real areas of need on defense.
So skill position talent, I have one of the best wide receivers with Julio Jones, but Coleman, Freeman, who else can I count on to move the football and make big plays?
Well, that's definitely a concern for them outside of Julio Jones. But when you look at Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, these are 2 guys that have big play potential at running back. And the running backs I'm most interested in are the guys that you hand the ball off to them and all of a sudden you look and they're 40 yards downfield. There aren't a ton of guys in the NFL can do that. Atlanta's got 2 if they can get them the ball into space.
You mentioned it was a strange season. They started 6-1. They finished 2-7. One of those wins late. They beat Carolina. How about that? 4-4 at home and 4-4 on the road. It was a wild season.
Yeah, it really was. That being said, last year they did, despite all those struggles, despite the collapse down the stretch, their schedule was much easier than average. Not a little bit, much easier than the average NFL schedule. So when you look at the strength of schedule this year, it is a significant increase in toughness compared to last year. It's also the toughest schedule in the division based on this year's win total. So Atlanta's up against it in 2 different ways. It's tougher than last year, and it's tougher than any of their divisional opponents.
Early thoughts, early lean, what do you think?
Well, there's definitely some things to like about the Falcons. My first gut said this team really might be primed to rebound, But, of course, it was that NFC Championship game lost to San Fran. That came back in 2012. They went 4-12 and 13. They went 6-10 and 14. Yeah, they went 8-8 last year, and they're not being asked to have a monster season for you to cash a Falcons over ticket. That's the gut, but I don't know if I'm really interested in actually betting this team over. If I have to make a recommendation, that'd be the way it would look, but it's not one that I'm particularly excited about, not at this point of the offseason, Paul.
All right, very good. So we had the 9-1 run a couple weeks ago. Last 2 weeks, a little bumpy. Back-to-back losing weeks. We try to snap out of it. Money time, play of the day. Where are we going, Teddy?
Yeah, and again, there will be hot streaks. There will be cold streaks. I guarantee it. Let's go to St. Louis, game number 979, 980, and take a look at the Rangers and the Cardinals over the total. Michael Waka 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 won't find breaking out of his slump easy against Jurickson Profar. He's exploded onto the scene, hitting .333 for his first month with the Rangers. Let's expect some crooked numbers on the scoreboard. We'll take the Rangers and Cardinals over 8 as our play of the day.
All right, fun show. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy all the action on Sunday. We'll be back Monday to recap everything, and we'll find out who the champ is in the NBA and the U.S. Open, too, on SportsBit. Betting Insight today.